Vanenge vachimatonga.
Tarawaya kana 2050 dai zvaigona. I am dead. Chichatadza.
Soja emozizimai amnakagwa kuti unoti nharo tiringini palo chiti ndakagwa akashata mai munofa papa munofira mafofise gonzo 2030 yatiri kutotaura iyoyi handi ndozoita munhu omusangana unoona bvunza tasvika kuti manotiti 2030 kudii.
We wanted then to start our meeting to look at the Constitutional Amendment number 3 and to confirm our stance that we are opposed to it. That will do everything to stop it.
They therefore disrupted the meeting and they beat us up, as you saw, but all our members were then treated.
Professor Lovemore Madhuku is a prominent Zimbabwean constitutional law expert, academic, and leader of the National Constitutional Assembly. Right now in Zimbabwe, he has been at the forefront of the opposition drive against Constitutional Amendment number 3, which seeks to extend President Emmerson Mnangagwa's term in office beyond 2028. Now, on March 1, 2026, Professor Madhuku and 17 other NCA members were brutally assaulted by armed men at their Harare offices during a private meeting. This incident, along with his ongoing legal and political challenges to the amendment, provides a critical backdrop for this interview today on the Kwedu Report. Professor Madhuku, welcome to the Kwedu Report.
Thank you very much for having us.
Tonight, to help us dissect this issue and look into the constitutional crisis that besets Zimbabwe at the moment, we are joined by a renowned historian, political analyst, and journalist, Reason Wafarova, based here in Sydney, Australia. Reason, once again, welcome to the Kwedu Report. You are a guest once again on the platform.
Thank you, Harry, and thank you, viewers. It's always a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Now, Professor Madhuku, to start the ball rolling, on March 1, could you describe the events of the attack at the NCA offices? Of particular interest, you mentioned that the Zimbabwe Public Police details were present but did not intervene. What does this signal about the current state of rule of law in Zimbabwe?
Okay, thank you. I think I should make it very clear. There is a misunderstanding there. We did not separate the Zimbabwe Republic Police from those that came in and beat up and assaulted people. It is the Zimbabwe Republic Police that did it. The distinction is between those who were uniformed and those who were not uniformed. And this must be very clear to everyone around the world. And that continues. It's a very serious misrepresentation and actually bad for what happened. It was the police. And the persons that came into our offices introduced themselves as police officers because they forced their way. It was a private meeting. The gate was open for purpose of those that were allowed to come in, to be screened to come in. When they got to the gate, they said, we are police officers and want to get in. And we had seen them all along with police officers. And they are also known. Remember that there were reports then of putting across names of people who were involved in those things. So I would say that if you want to make it clear, it was police officers who were utilizing police machinery, baton sticks, guns, all sort of protection for the police, and they came in. So that must then be the basis for my answer to your question. What does it mean to the rule of law? It's clear that it's an overthrowing of the constitutional order, complete disregard for anything called the rule of law. When the state itself is responsible for assaulting its own. Instead, they could have come in and said, disperse. We would have dispersed. But they didn't do that. They just came in to beat up people.
Thank you very much, Professor Madhuku, for that clarification there. Now, reason, you may want to come in.
I think it's just said to hear what Professor Madhuku is saying regarding the actions of the police. My follow-up question would be the motive, and is this a political takeover of a professional security apparatus, and are these political orders, or is the police commissioner, in your view, still involved in running the police? Is it politicians sending these people, or are they being sent directly from their professional hierarchy?
Well, I think it's a very good question you are posing, Reason. But the answer to that one is we should also not draw a distinction between what we believe are professional police officers and then political police officers. The whole police force is political. Remember that the commissioner, the current commissioner general, was appointed recently. The appointments are political. They've politicized the police force. So our police force are now trained to be professional, where professionalism is required. They are also trained to be political when politics is required. That's what is happening. It's a very sophisticated state. They train their police officers to be very well versed in everything. Now they've been told that we are playing politics. And this is what they are doing. There will be the same police officers, same people doing the same things. They know when to be professional, and they can be professional if they choose to be professional. But they also choose to be political, which is what they have now done.
From what you are saying, I mean, it looks like the whole effort, the whole drive to defend the Constitution or to challenge Amendment number 3, Bill number 3, is being met systematically. And I'm putting this question in two ways. So you have the NCA, and we lately heard of what's happening with the CDF as well, and the Timbers Group and so on. People that are coming to discuss and are perceived to be opposed to the bill, there's quite a closure of space in terms of allowing them to do so. But on the contrary, it does look like there is a huge drive, particularly in constituencies in the rural areas, where people are coming to tell the masses, or to tell the villagers, or to tell the people what is happening. And that is in accordance with the gazetted position of 90 days. And I've just been listening to some of the narratives there. They are kind of just passing the message that it's inevitable. This is what was agreed in Blawayo Mutare, and this is what is. It's like ZANU-PF is informing people, and on the other hand, there's a systematic crackdown. How are we going forward with about 80, 79 days to go? How are we going to make sure that this changes, that the other side may also get inroads to talking to people to say this is not inevitable? What you're being told that we're just going to go to this stage, this has been agreed on, that's not true, you can change this. How are we going to do that in the next 79, 78 days?
Okay, I think that you have made the proper observation there, that as we speak now, ZANU-PF meetings are going on. They do not have to notify the police. The police would have to discover the meetings and give them protection. That's how it happens. If you have ZANU-PF meetings, everything's okay. Not only that, the meetings by ZANU-PF are not meant to discuss the constitutional bill. They are meant to brainwash people and say that it has to happen this way. This is why we are doing it. And not to ask people to say, do you want it or not? It's to tell them why it is being done and so forth. So how we have to stop it is what the political struggle is all about. If people fold their hands and watch them, then that is what will happen. I don't even know why they are waiting for 90 days. Because look, they are choosing to respect 90 days when they don't mean it. It's an inconvenience, but they are going through it. And so they use these small things to appear like it's a democratic process. You say you wait for 90 days. You also say, I'll go to parliament. When you know that parliament will be nothing but a rubber stamp, these are your people who just sit there and do what you want. So all that is what Zimbabweans must have to confront and change. And that is why it is a painful and a long struggle. ZANU-PF will not allow a process that would be democratic. They don't want Zimbabweans to enjoy the fruits of democracy. Not at all. They want Zimbabwe to be their own, private property where they do whatever they like, and anyone who raises their thing. So we are going to organize. I'm just answering you. So how do we get to stop it? It will have to be stopped by people resisting it. Those who are being stopped from meeting must continue to meet. Those who are being told not to go out there and meet villagers and tell them the opposite, they must be able to be told that. So we have to, first, it is a resistance and defiance. People will have to do these things. They will be beaten up, they will be arrested, they may be killed, and so on. But that is what the struggle is all about. It unfortunately has to be the way. What is completely paining us is that the liberation struggle was fought to ensure that people will be living in a world where we can express our views and do this. So we have to do another struggle, which means the 45-year period would really not count for anything. Now we've been independent for now 46 years very soon, but that is not showing. So my short answer is that it's a challenge which is calling upon anyone who would want to change that situation to face it, and
Yes.
and it requires all frameworks. Yeah.
Within that challenge, Professor Maduku, you realize that I listened to Tendai Biti trying to clarify that the document he was holding is a civic, and the approach is civic, and the organization is civic. Uh, so, in terms of the mobilization strategy, the NCA is a political party. We got a civic organization. Timber is on one hand, Triple C, and the Constitutional Defense Platform, whatever they formed there as well, is supposed to be a civic group. So if we are going to say there is ZANU-PF, and I believe there is a big chunk of people within ZANU-PF, right from Blawayo to Mutare, who actually feel that there was a lot of manipulation in Resolution 1 itself, and they are not happy with what is happening. And then there would be some from your party, and there would be some from the MDC, there would be some political personalities all over the place. Are looking at now is defense of a national constitution, the supreme law of the land, and people want to gather around that cause and then go their separate ways for politics when this issue is solved. But how are we going to speak the same language and then we are not seen as I'm not going to do an NCA thing, I'm not going to do a triple C thing, and so on? How can there be an umbrella kind of rallying point where people are just going to know exactly what this is all about? And I'm talking about this because it will relate to how you're going to be involving SADC, how you're going to be involving the African Union, or just the international community. Because if it's 5 fragments, it just also means people look at it that way, and then there might not be that much of sympathy.
Okay, you are raising good questions there, but let me be clear. We are all speaking with the same voice. We may be speaking from different rooms, but the examples of people you have given, the BT is against 2030, and he said that very clearly with his organization. Timba is against 2030, he said that with his organization. Monzora is against 2030, he said that with his organization. Everyone else, I can go on, I don't have to mention. So, point number one, speaking with one voice. We are speaking with the same voice. We may have to get under one roof, which is now the second issue. In what ways do we coordinate our activities of promoting that? That is the challenge which we are. And so that is currently being addressed. Sooner or later, you will see that we will be working from the same platforms, doing certain things together, and so forth. What I like about the current situation is that all these groups that are being mentioned, they are against 2030. The only group that is in favor of 2030 would be, of course, ZANU-PF, and of course, one or two other political parties that are like that. I've heard Linda Masarira for lead saying that he supports the proposals. So that is clear enough. So people must not be discouraged by the fact that this was the beginning of a 90-day period. So when we were assaulted here, it was the NCA sitting to strategize how it will work with others. So because we are separate, we must have some separate processes where we meet together to plan how to work with others. That is what our meeting was all about, which is why it is unfortunate that it was like that. And I know that my colleagues in the other groups are also busy planning how to get together. We will soon be together. And I can say that we recognize that it would not make sense to be speaking from different places when we are saying the same things and to be planning different activities when we are meeting the same objectives. So, in terms of stopping 2030, we will soon be doing activities together. And these activities are not difficult to tell. They are very easy things. It's to go out to the people and spread our message, which is what is very clear. We move there with our voices, with our flyers, with our, placards, etc. Then the second thing is to one of these days confront the system. There would be in the 90-day period a time when we will face these ZANU-PF thugs to kill us. That will happen very soon. And so it's a struggle. People must know that we are not just shouting. And I know that some of my colleagues are quite seasoned as well. Remember that what you saw on the 1st of March is what was seen on 11, sorry, March. So it appears to be a March thing, March. It was one March. And then we got that thing on 11 March. You remember that thing in Majipisa police station in Highfield and so forth. And that is going to happen again. What we want to challenge these people who are in government, if they think that being in government is to kill, to remain in government, we are going to allow them to kill so that they remain in government. If they think remain in government means beating up everyone, we will allow them to beat up people so that they remain in government. I mean, if they think that being in government is to be cruel against your own people, if being in government means that you will not allow your people to speak out, then let it be. But that won't end. It won't last. They will leave office. What you saw on the 1st of March is a very good lesson for everyone to see that you cannot afford a government of that nature, a government that uses a police force, which comes in the cover of the police force. So the NCA members couldn't fight back because they knew they were facing a state or a state system. They wouldn't fight police officers. We cannot fight the army. We don't fight the police. We cooperate with them. The police would behave the way they did. So people were defenseless because they were facing an arm of state, which is an abuse of power. I don't know whether there are any people out there who think that you can abuse power ad infinitum. You can go on and on and on and abuse power against people that is not going to be the case. So ZANU-PF must be told, they know it, I think, that they cannot continue to exist this way. Let them do it. They have shown their colors. We now know that they are going to be doing what they were doing several years ago. I think that is what is going to happen. So I think I've answered your reason. People will come together. There is enough courage among all these players. But I also recognize that there are others who won't be as courageous. it's not only courage that is required. There are people who, in their bedrooms, in their small places, will pray for us. That is very important. Who, in their small places, will actually persuade others. I meet people every day who will tell you that we are horrified by what happened to you. We support you, but we are not able to come out. That feeling itself, they would not be able we would be able to survive with it. So please, the message that must go out is that don't criticize people who are not, whom you may think are not courageous. Everyone is very important. Those that are strong and are able to confront the police, those that may not be so strong but are able to sit back and do other things, persuade. We all didn't go to war. I am aware. I was very young, but I know that our people in the rural areas would provide food to the nationalists. They would come and hide in our places and so forth. We didn't all need to go to Mozambique or Zambia or Tanzania. This is the same thing. Not everyone has to come out and shout on top of their voices that they don't want 2030. But I am very sure that more than 90% of Zimbabweans would want the president to serve a maximum of 10 years. And they would not donate 2 years. If you want to be in office, you must be elected. So to come 2028, there must be elections in the country. And that is so straightforward. So these are things that I think I've spoken for too long on that point. I think I've made the point. Zimbabweans will oppose this.
Professor.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Madhuku, for that clarity. I have a question here. You have been in the trenches of fighting for the promotion of democracy in Zimbabwe, primarily on the constitution side. Now, you have described the proposal to extend the presidential term to 7 years as treasonous and meaningless. Now, beyond the term limit, I'm sure ordinary Zimbabweans would want to understand what are the most dangerous elements of this bill for Zimbabwe's future democracy, or to the democratic principles and processes of Zimbabwe as a republic.
Well, thank you. I think I should do another thing. I wanted to say that I would discourage people from looking at this bill in its entirety because there's so many things and start going into what we call the merits of some of the provisions. All the other provisions are just being put there to completely mislead people. The real reason for this bill is to extend the term of office of the president so that the president remains in office beyond 2028. And then thereafter, you change the way presidents are elected. They're no longer elected directly by the people. They will be elected by parliament. Those are the two issues which ought to be focused on. The other things are just trying to accompany this so that we pretend that there is a constitutional debate when there's nothing.
Here, we are not dealing with a situation where you have a genuine constitution reform process which wants to look at all those issues that have been added. These are issues that are just meant to cover up for the main issue. And the main issues, as you know, are those issues. One, that there will be no elections in 2028. You give an extra 2 years to both the president, parliament, and the councillors. So it's the extension of term. That is the most. And then secondly, the fact that for the future, we will not then be electing the president directly and that people will only vote for their MPs and there's an indirect. Those are the two issues that are very serious and represent an attack on our constitution. And everything else which has been put as a form of abuse where you would pretend that you are also wanting to amend other provisions. They might have taken advantage of the current situation to do so. But we shouldn't have a situation where people feel that those are issues to debate. We must kill these two issues decisively, and then that is the end of the matter because the bill is not going to be passed in phases. They want to think that some people will think that there are other advantages to gain. Let's say you are a chief and you are now being told that the constitution is being changed to allow you to participate in politics. Then you ignore the fundamental problems that we have with the extension of term and the fact that there shall be no presidential election, direct presidential election for the future. That is the point I wanted to make. I wanted us to say, in looking at this bill and how bad it is, we must focus on those issues. And then as we mobilize people, they must focus on those issues.
I don't know, Professor, that you did say just before that question that we are going to just quote what you said. If they are going to kill to rule, we are going to make them kill. So that shows a lot of resolve and commitment. And I'm just going to ask a hypothetical question here that is kind of legally linked. So this scenario where we go past the 90 days and they bulldoze their way somehow, and this bill gets ascended into an act of parliament, becomes law. If that happened and say it becomes law, so there are 7-year terms, and this bill passed in September, would 2030 be irrelevant, or they would just then be going to 2033, 7 years from the time that thing becomes law? Because
well, I think that they have bad intentions, very bad intentions. So you cannot take away from them anything that is ridiculous but which serves their interest. They'll give an interpretation of that new law, which might end up with Parliament immediately sitting to elect the president, and then elect the president to a 7-year term, which might start now or start next year. We really don't know, because the idea of the amendment is not to follow the law and to be very legalistic, is to find an excuse so that you take out of the minds of people that there is a term limit. You know, so the bill is coming in as a way of pretending that we are a constitutional state. Because everyone knew before this bill that the president was serving his last term ending in 2028. Now, when you put an amendment, you are like, clouding the issue so that people begin to think that that amendment would allow anything possible. So that's a possibility. I don't believe it will be based on anything to do with an interpretation of the
law. Thank you, Professor Madhuku. If you are just joining us, thank you very much to our viewers for joining us on today's edition of the Kwedu Report. In this edition, we are hosting top Zimbabwean constitutional law expert, Professor Lovemore Madhuku, who is also an opposition leader for the National Constitutional Assembly. They are leading a charge and a fight against the Constitutional Amendment number 3 in Zimbabwe, which seeks to extend the term of office of the president. And coincidentally, the incumbent President Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa wants to benefit from the amendment. That is very critical. Now, Professor Madhuku, you are representing 6 war veterans in a legal challenge against this bill. What would you say is the core legal basis for this challenge? And do you have confidence in the independence of the judiciary to rule on such a very sensitive matter?
I'll start with that last portion. We would not have gone to court if we didn't believe that the courts could rule on such matter and rule in our favor. I have confidence that, given the nature of the matter, and it's also a straightforward one, they'll have to bear and look at it properly. If they are not going to rule in our favor, they would have to be giving good reasons. If they rule in our favor, they're good reasons. So an independent judiciary, by the way, doesn't mean a judiciary which rules in your favor. It means a judiciary that determines an issue without fear or favor, and which applies the law to the best of its understanding of the law. So in this case, we're very confident about that. The main aspect of that challenge by the war veterans is that the president has breached his constitutional duties to uphold the constitution and to respect the values of the liberation struggle by presiding over a process which is initiating a constitutional challenge. A constitutional amendment. Once you are president under Section 90, that is what the allegation by the war veterans is. You must deal with the constitution as it is. And that the president must not be part of those that want to change the constitution, and that they have no right to do so as a cabinet to initiate the process.
I think that is very important there in terms of clarification as to the main facets of the challenge that you are taking to court. Now, you have said before that Zimbabwe is fast descending into a constitutional crisis. At what point does this crisis become irreversible, in your opinion? And what role do you think regional bodies like SADC and other bodies like the African Union could possibly intervene?
There are two levels at which the crisis would become clearly irreversible and real crisis. The first stage is when the politicians who are pushing this bill would completely refuse a referendum, and then that a referendum is not held. And we will have a constitutional amendment which would not have come from the people, but would have come from the beneficiaries of the amendment. In other words, a group of politicians seeking more power sit among themselves, give themselves that power, and call it a constitutional amendment, and then proceed to govern on the basis of that without the input of the people. It will certainly be a serious crisis. It will be what others have said, yes, a coup, a clear coup. That is one stage. The second stage of the crisis getting out of hand is once they go beyond 2028, once we start in 2028 to have these politicians actually now serving their ill-gotten term of office, we will not be having a legitimate government. It would be, yes, a government coming out of a constitution, but as from the moment Parliament is now sitting on the basis of its extra 2 years that it has given itself, from the moment that the president sits on the basis of the 2 years that he has given to himself, and councillors in office on the basis of no election, that would be a crisis. And at that stage, we will expect regional bodies and others to support the people when they will be challenging it. It is not to say they should just come in and start changing and telling the government what to do and what not to do. They must just be supporting us and supporting the people of Zimbabwe. At that stage, the people must rise and use whatever lawful means to show their opposition, and then we will require the support of the region and the international community at that point.
Professor Madhuku, you mentioned the really crux of the matter with the war veterans case that has been filed at, I guess, at the High Court. So we we are talking of the participation of the president in this whole process as unconstitutional, him presiding over the process himself. At what point are we going to be seized with the actual merits in terms of what you're raising, the incumbent benefiting and the need for a referendum, and that the term extension would only be legal if a referendum was held, and individuals can only benefit if a second referendum was held? Is the court going to deal with these matters, or we don't know?
Thanks. Not most of those issues, some of them are not raised in this. There is another application which is already before the CONCORD. I think perhaps today and tomorrow it will start being publicized. A former member of parliament has already gone to the Constitutional Court. We will be representing him in that, but it has been filed by another law firm. But we are instructed to deal with it. There will be another challenge, it has already been filed, which will deal with those issues you have raised, that incumbents cannot benefit, and that Parliament is actually abusing its power in even asking people to debate a proposal which is patently unconstitutional. So that matter has already been filed. It's possible that it may be heard at the same time as the one with the war veterans. So we will be hearing these matters before the end of the 90-day period. So you'll be hearing, I think that in the course of today or tomorrow, we will be able to get that. When I get my copy of the application that has been filed by lawyer Mchadehama, Mbizo Mchadehama and Makoni, and it's an application by Prince Dube, who was an MP of the Triple C for Binga North. You will then see that application, I think, in the course of today and tomorrow. It will be making its rounds and people understanding it. It is now, that one takes head on the whole thing relating to what that amendment entails. Section 328, subsection 7.
That's a relief to hear that the process is all encompassing. And I was just going to say, we have the legal process, and I'm also kind of delighted that we have the political process where you are involved in both processes. In your view, how is this matter likely to be solved?
I think it is going to end in both ways. Both ways, there would be a legal issue, and then it will be supported by the political process. I can't tell at the moment which one is likely to score quickly and so forth.
Thank you very much if you are still joining us on the Kwedu Report. Tonight, where we have been hosting Professor Lovemore Madhuku, constitutional law expert and opposition leader of the National Constitutional Assembly in Zimbabwe, where we have been discussing amendment of the Constitution number 3 in Zimbabwe, which seeks to extend President Emerson Mnangagwa's term of office from 5 to 7 years. Tonight, we have been joined also by historian, political analyst, and journalist Reason Wafawaroa. Thank you very much. Now, Reason, what would you say are the most critical issues for the opposition going forward as far as tackling this issue of the Constitution amendment is concerned? What are the most critical issues that the opposition and the ordinary masses should be seized with?
Look, from what the professor was saying, I think it comes down to a unit of purpose. It comes down to collectiveness. And I think, like he was saying, we should not expect everyone to come and be confrontational. But if people just support morally, and those that can actually go and confront and put up some resistance, do it knowing that they have 90% of the people behind them, that is going to work. Because he was giving the example of the Liberation War, that there were still a lot of young people in the villages and the same age with the comrades. Not everyone went to Mozambique, but they were in support of what was happening. That is point number one. And he was actually talking also, like when we lost him, he was talking about the danger of looking at the 23 clauses that were introduced, some of it just to divert attention, but the real issue still comes down that this bill is about term extension for both the president and parliament. And the more it gets simplified, I was actually going to say to Professor Madhuku, can people just reduce this to say this is 2028 election versus 2030? Everyone knows that the elections are due 5 years, and it's 5 years in 2028. Just tell people they want to move elections another 2 years, make it as simple as possible. I think this is where the whole issue is to say, how do you simplify it? It's getting more complicated. People just want to create narratives and debate about them and new things, and then people get exhausted. And exhaustion is the biggest threat to a resistance. So for people not to be exhausted, narrow it down, keep the motivation high. And this is basically like, don't allow 2028 to go away, because that's your year for elections. I think this is where he was coming. But for that to happen, there has to be unit of purpose. People are polarized. That's why you see that they want now. If BT is there, I'm not going there because this happened in the past. If Monzora is there, I'm not going. If they can find a common cause that looks beyond what Monzora did in 2018, beyond what BT did in 2014, and beyond what Chamisa did or whoever else, and just say this is time to defend the Constitution. This is probably what will work. And I'm sure that's what the professor was going to conclude, to say you just need to have that rallying point where people can know that the whole idea is the defense of the Constitution. And like he rightly said, it's really about term extension. It's really about people that are awarding to themselves extra days in office. Do people want that or not? If not, people just should stop it.
Thank you very much, Reason. Lastly, in 30 seconds, Reason, is it a bad thing or is it legal? So is it illegal to change a constitution?
It's perfectly legal.
If
Constitutions are amended every day, constitutions are amended every time, but they have to be amended constitutionally. The problem with this amendment is that the amendment is in bad faith, and the amendment is a scam, and it's illegal. It's because it addresses things that clearly stated that for them to be amended, you can't run away from a referendum. So all these clever little gymnastics, this is their problem. It's not the amending itself. They can take out anything as long as they go to the people. And having said that, if people actually vote and say they want 7 years and they want President Mnangagwa to continue, people can say that. The Constitution provides that if a particular president is so good and they want to continue beyond the 10 years, you go to the people. If the people vote yes, that will be amended. So, but they are afraid of the people. That's the problem.
Thank you very much. That's Reason Waforoa, political analyst, historian, and journalist based in Sydney, Australia, together with Professor Lovemore Madhuku, constitutional lawyer, expert, as well as opposition leader of the National Constitutional Assembly in Zimbabwe, giving some insights into the debate currently going on in Zimbabwe on Constitutional Amendment number 3, seeking to extend President Emmerson Mnangagwa's term in office. To our viewers, thank you very much for joining us on the Kwedu Report tonight. We want to hear what you think about the issue that we are seized with. Do you want the Constitution of Zimbabwe to be amended? Do you want an increase in the presidential term? Do you want an increase in the parliamentary terms? What is it exactly that you want as citizens? We want to hear your opinions. You can hit the chat box and give us your opinions. You can once again follow, like, and share our page on the Kwedu Report, on the Kwedu Classics, on Facebook, Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. You can also read all the latest news on our website, Hericom Media. Once again, thank you to Reason Waforoa, a regular feature on the Kwedu Report, and our guest also tonight, Professor Lovemore Madhuku. Till we meet again in the next edition of the Kwedu Report. Thank you for joining us. Have a good one.